What's up, YouTube fans? Today we're going to do a comparison of the Takara Tomy Masterpiece Sideswipe, the Plus version, with the Badcube Steamroll. So these are both a couple years old, I think around 2018 time frame, but I never really picked up this Badcube version of Sideswipe, so I really want to take a look at it. Michael Rogers sent this to me, so I appreciate that, Michael. Thanks for getting this into my hands. And as I always say with these comparisons, I try to be as objective as possible, but of course there's subjectivity involved when you're judging something like this in various categories. So if I pick one or the other in a certain category and you prefer the other one, then you win. I try to do these videos for those who are trying to make a decision about which direction they want to go. If they want to pick up one maybe they haven't looked at, or maybe they want to pick up the original. But either way, hopefully I can help you with this review. With that being said, let's get started. We're going to start off with accessories. And there are all the accessories you get with these two guys. There's quite a bit of stuff in the boxes. So we'll start off with these pile drivers. They both have several sets of pile drivers. I always found this to be a somewhat useless accessory that I never take out of the box, but they both have multiple sets. The Badcube one does have some extra ones, so like drill type of attachments, but there you go. They both have a handgun, painted. This one's silver, this one's more like a grayish. And then you're left with this. So you get the jetpack for the Badcube, and then you get an alternate face there, kind of like an open yelling face for the Badcube. So we're going to give accessories to Badcube. Easy win for them. All right, next we're going to talk about the cartoon accuracy. In order to do that, we're going to put the G1 image there so you can take a look at that. And this is kind of a mixed bag for me on this one. It's kind of tough because the Badcube does a nice job on the chest. They get it compressed down. It looks flush with the waist. And it's overall, it looks a lot more like the cartoon because it's compressed. The Takara obviously, squared off. It doesn't taper down. It doesn't really, it's much wider than his waist, so it looks a little odd. So for that part, I think Badcube did a lot better. But when you look at some other stuff, like the face sculpt, for example, the look of the top of his shoulders and chest, there's a lot of uncleanly parts and just things that don't look like the cartoon. Even that missile or the rocket launcher on the shoulder, it just looks weird. It doesn't look like the cartoon at all. So I'm going to give it a tie for cartoon accuracy. I think there's some things that Badcube does really well. There's other things that just don't do well at all. And this kind of leads me into sculpt. So I think Takara did a lot better job with sculpt, and let me tell you what I mean. So these arms, for example, whatever reason they decided to store these panels on the back of the arm rather than having it hidden inside or folded up, and because it shows through, it's very distracting. You see that blue piece there. You could probably leave it open, might actually be better open. But either way, it's still a distraction, and it just doesn't look good. And the same thing happens with the knees because you've got this gap here, very large gap between the knee and the shin. You end up seeing the blue of the window behind it. And we don't really look at our figures from the back, although I would say the Takara is cleaner. But even from the side, there's a lot of stuff and kibble and hardware that shows up on the Badcube. So I'm going to give sculpt to Takara Tomy. I think it's just much cleaner, much nicer to look at. There's less stuff that distracts you. All right, next we'll talk about the paint on these two guys. And this is pretty much a no-brainer. The Takara Tomy is pretty much fully painted. The only parts that aren't painted that you see here are the black here and the black on this shin. But everything else you see is painted. All the white and all the red parts. And some little details here and there. On the Badcube, you don't have any paint on the white parts. Those are all unpainted. These silver pieces are painted just like these are. And the red, I believe, is painted. I think it's pretty well done. But because all of the arms, the forearms, and the thighs, the feet, and the midsection are unpainted, we're going to give paint over to Takara Tomy. All right, next we're going to talk about the build quality on these. And they are both pretty well made, but there are some things on the Badcube that really bug me in terms of quality and the material. So this piece right here really doesn't feel very nice. It doesn't peg in very well. So that just the plastic overall on this part doesn't feel great. Some of the legs feel good overall. I mean, they've got pretty nice tight joints, but I don't love pin joints everywhere, and this has got a lot of pin joints and sliding joints on it. Those are the kinds of joints that loosen up over time, and because there's so many sliding joints, that does give me worry about the longevity of this. But there are also some things, so this here doesn't really lock in, and that's more of an issue with articulation, but those kind of things kind of keep me from, believing it's gonna last. The Takara Tomy is pretty darn solid. I mean, there's nothing that really moves on it. Everything locks into place. It doesn't have any, parts coming apart like that. So while it is an older figure, I think it was built pretty robustly. So we're going to give build quality to Takara Tomy. Next, we're going to talk about articulation on these guys. In order to do that, we're going to have to articulate them. So we'll start off with Takara Tomy. So the head is on a rotating swivel. So it goes up to there, down to there, and rotates all the way around. A little bit limited. The shoulder cannon can go up and down. No rotation on that. The shoulder can rotate all the way around, goes up to there. Rotation at the bicep. Single jointed elbow gets 90 degrees, a rotation at the wrist, and the hands open up on a single pin. You have a rotation at the waist, no ab crunch on this guy. You have a hip skirt here, the legs go up to there, back to there, hindered by the skirt back there, and then out to the side. The knees bend 90 degrees. The ankles tilt a little bit this way and that way, and the toe tilt can go up, and not too much up, but down for sure. And that's his articulation in a nutshell. Going to Badcube, you have the head, looks like also on a rotating swivel, so you get down to there, and it's kind of hard to articulate without coming apart. I didn't mention this during the build quality, but that's another thing that bothers me, is his head tends to come apart. But he's definitely got more articulation on that head. It goes up further and down further. This also rotates and goes up and down, so you get a little bit more articulation on that as well. The shoulder rotates all the way around, and it's on a ratchet joint. You get this up to here, and you got that nice hardware underneath that kind of you can use to hide down, the joint. You have rotation at the bicep. You get a double jointed elbow. So if you have this done right, you can get the full bend. So that is also more articulation than Takara Tomy. Rotation at the waist. You don't, I guess you do have, let's see, not really. That's just because of the looseness, but it doesn't have an ab crunch. You have legs go all the way up to there, all the way back to there, and out to the side. Knee bends 90 degrees. Ankle tilt way out to the side and forward all the way and back a little bit. So definitely more articulation on almost every joint on the Badcube. So we're going to give articulation to Badcube. Okay, next we're going to talk about our transformation and engineering. So when it comes to transformation, this is a pretty old design. So it's very simple. It's actually pretty fun and easy to transform back and forth. And it's kind of been remolded over and over and over because of that, because of the design. The Badcube is frustrating. Just like almost every Badcube design, it's very over-engineered. There's a lot of stuff going on. And there's a lot of sliding joints and pin joints and odd movements that make it not so fun to transform. So we're going to give transformation over to Takara Tomy. I just think they have a more simple and elegant transformation. When it comes to engineering, I think Badcube has some neat things going on. So this piece of engineering right here on the chest, in order to get this compressed down, that's pretty impressive that they were able to make that work, right? And actually get it to compress down and be flush. That's a neat little trick. The other little trick is getting this shoulder cannon to fold up and hide away inside the robot mode. The last trick is this gun will transform inside of the alt mode and hide away. So because it's got those other extra tricks in the engineering, we're going to give engineering over to Badcube. And here they are in their alt modes. and it's really, really similar. So they both are pretty much the same length, width, and height. The Badcube is a tiny bit taller. They both have the black up here, translucent blue for the windows all the way around. They both have the translucent with the silver behind for the headlights. They both have the black bumper. They both have the black triangle here. Painted silver rims. Only difference here is the Takara is gray, whereas the Badcube is black. On the back, you've got painted orange lights versus the painted orange and red. Really, really similar. One of the main differences is the weapon storage. So the Takara, the weapons store on top, where the Badcube, the weapons hide inside. So you've got the shoulder cannon there, and then you can take the handgun. I'm not going to put it in, but it does fit down in there, and it actually pegs in and stays in. So that's a little bit nicer. That hides away, although I don't really like the look of seeing the shoulder cannon in that window, but you can't see his feet in here, so kind of same difference, right? Literally the only thing I think that Badcube has got is these headlights, and you can kind of push the little pieces here, and it's hard to get to. All right, and there are the headlights. They're a little bit difficult to get out, but you do have basically the same type of feature you had with the Takara Tomy Sunstreaker. And then also you can open up the doors on these. There's no interior, but because it's got those extra features, just barely going to eke out for Badcube here on the vehicle mode. I think they nailed the vehicle modes on obviously both of these, but just those extra features, we're going to give it to Badcube. So the final factor we're going to consider is the cost. So I get my costs off of the Toy Dojo, American retail site, and I go off the original retail price, not aftermarket, not the reissue, just the original. So the Takara Tomy comes in at $85 retail. The Badcube comes in at $100 retail. So Takara Tomy is going to win on cost. So final thoughts on this comparison. You can see the score there. Takara Tomy is going to take it, but it's pretty close by 1 point. And I thought it might be like that, but for me personally, I do prefer the Takara Tomy. But let me talk about why would you pick the Badcube. So if you really like articulation, if that's your priority, and you like to pose your figures and you want to get them to more dynamic posing, I think Badcube is the one for you. They did prioritize posing, but what they sacrificed was sculpt and cleanliness of the bot. And that's something I don't really enjoy. Now, if you prefer a more clean bot or a more tuned looking bot and you want it to fit in with the rest of your collection, then this might be better for you. And it really depends what you have in your collection. So let's bring in Sunstreaker here for just a second. If you've got the Badcube Sunstreaker, they might fit together pretty well, and the heights might be pretty close. But in this picture, you can see Badcube is actually the tallest of the three. In my mind's eye, I believe Sideswipe is the same or shorter than Sunstreaker. So that's really a matter of opinion. That's really a matter of your taste. Me personally, I don't like that he's bigger. But it depends what you have in your collection and how you want your collection to look. I'm going to stick with the Takara Tomy version, but of course you pick the one that you like. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.